I'm Steve Clemons. It's great to be here. Let me just say a couple of words. Fred, Debbie, have a seat. And let me just share with you just a little bit. This idea for today and why we're doing this is obviously we live in toxic times. I just came back from Davos, and a couple of our underwriters were up there. You kind of walk around and you sort of see people more comfortable today with closing themselves off from other folks than engaging them. And when I was at the Atlantic, when I was at the New America Foundation, we did a forum called The Real State of the Union at one point on say, how are things really going in education? How are they really going across racial divides? How are they really going in infrastructure? As sort of a foil to what we would usually hear from whatever president, Democrat or Republican might be, and kind of do a point at the, the galleys kind of discussion and a pat on the back. And we're just living in toxic times. And I just want to give you that preamble to two excellent members of Congress, Fred Upton and Debbie Dingell, who shouldn't like each other, who shouldn't hang out with one another. They're both from Michigan. They're political in a way. They should be dogs and cats in the Michigan political scene.
See, that's part of the problem.
Republican. No, what I'm saying.
You're starting out with
no, I'm setting very low expectations for the two of you. And I guess I want to start out because, I want to ask you both. I mean, the reason I invited you both here today was to focus in on this question of why you're able to be as close as you are. I want to kind of ramp up that you do work together, you applaud each other, you want each other to run again. I mean, and whenever I've had you speak before, you say so many nice things about Fred Upton. Fred and I were at a bar the other night. That's where I'll leave it.
Was in a bar.
Well, we were at a bar.
I would have voted against prohibition. Let me
exactly, yeah. But in the same thing. So first, why? What are you two doing that could be something that could become contagious in the good ways, more broadly than we are? So, Debbie.
I was going to say age before something.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I love you, but I don't even like the way you start out.
That's great.
I mean, we got a problem right now in this,
exactly.
The Congress that everybody's like instant. And actually, I think that you'd be surprised at the number of friendships in the
Well, we want to hear about that because I think, we've got a lot of people watching online as well.
People do talk to each other. Fred's been my best friend since I've come.
Yeah.
He was very close to John Dingell. We are the same age, but he's older. We'll always be older. We have a lot of the same values. We care about a lot of stuff. We watch out for each other. We really are like a brother and sister.
And I got my stripes from, Debbie's husband, John. I mean, John was the dean of the House. He was the most powerful committee chairman probably ever, just about. And he got things done. And, today we have divided government. I mean, if you want to get things done, you got to work together. And I learned, John was my chairman. I was his later on when we took the majority back. But the lessons I learned from him of working together, and, the proof was in the pudding. We had, President Obama was, during my tenure as chairman, he was president the entire time. He signed more than 200 bills. We had some amazing successes, and we're still building on them. Our biggest thing, one would have to say, would be 21st Century Cures. Diana DeGette and I worked on this bill that passed overwhelmingly in the House and the Senate. Remarkable advances now in science. Diana DeGette and I are now working on 2.0. We've got hundreds of recommendations. We plan to introduce it in March. But instead of being the Upton-DeGette bill, it's going to be the DeGette-Upton bill. But we're working with both of our leaderships. But we're here to get things done. We're not here to throw bombs at each other. And there's a lot of us that really do want to work together. And that's, again, with divided government. If you want, you can spin windmills and nothing happens, or you can try and get things done.
So what happens when constituents go to a Fred Upton town hall and say, how can you hang out with someone who voted for impeachment of the President of the United States?
You know what? Our skin gets pretty thick.
Yeah.
They throw a lot of,
But but I think it's very important because sometimes you have individuals like yourselves who can, have independent, do things. Yeah. But then you're also trying to represent the needs and aspirations of people in your districts who supported you. And right now, the gap between those on a lot of issues, whether it's climate change or impeachment.
I think a lot of people back home, a majority of folks, I'm a swing district, Debbie somewhat is as well. I think constituents they don't care if you have an R or a D next to your name. I actually use this a lot. They don't care. They just want to get things done. I've been to Debbie's district a lot on official stuff. She's been to my district a good number of times.
Always snow.
Yeah, yeah. This last week it was snowing. I go, Debbie, are you over here on my side of the state? I don't know. But that's where people are. They're not, in Michigan you don't register by party, but people just want to get things done. They're tired of the dysfunction that they see in D.C. Right. And why can't you all work together? Well, here's a case where we do. We actually have done fundraisers together, Debbie and me.
Debbie,
I want to build on that, though. Right. It's also on us to teach. I was at something in the fall that it's a thing that we do. It's awards that we give. I chair a group of business, labor, and government back home, and we do an awards, Shining Light Award, which focuses on people working together. And it was the week that George Bush and Ella DeGeneres had been nice to each other. And I made a comment that we could all learn from them, that, right. We need to respect each other. So at the end of the event, off I go to the ladies' room, and two young Arab girls come up to me and start screaming at me in the ladies' room. Well, I didn't back off. I said, no, you're wrong. You're too young to hate. And it became a scene in the ladies' room, because you know how lines form after a long, but I didn't back down. And I think part of it's up to us to say, you got to listen to each other. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. We got to respect each other. We got to listen to each other. You can disagree agreeably.
So let me ask you this. And you and I have talked about this before. One of the most ascendant behaviors in Washington today is bullying and bulldozing and not listening, but screaming more loudly, whatever view you may have already. You're of a different ilk. How do you beat back bullying? How do you beat back that with your colleagues, with other kind of stakeholders in the political and policy process? Debbie. Sorry, Fred.
Well, I do it situation by situation.
No, but I'm asking you how you take that behavior viral beyond your.
I can be pretty intense in case nobody noticed it. But let's take the president. First of all, I was stunned. I was with Fred when it happened.
Just the president attacked Debbie Dingell.
And
John.
And I was with Fred and actually some other Republicans, and they were great. They didn't want me to leave, and I was like, I'm not ruining your night. And I was like, I'm not going to respond. We got to use this. I took a deep breath and said, how do we show people that we got to be civil to each other?
But then guess who responded?
And if I engaged, it would become a tit for tat.
Right.
But I'm not always that. I said to Steny Hoyer on the floor after PFAS, I showed you I could be calm. I did with the president. He goes, where were you this week? So I do think you got to, each moment, nobody's going to bully me. And I have people who try to bully me, and I will step up to that. But you also got to take each situation, like with those kids. I stay calm but strong.
Right.
You got to kind of.
Fred, you did respond.
Well, I did. Well, it was just by happenstance. It was the night that we actually had the vote on impeachment in the House. So, I don't know, it was 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. I was going to go home, and we're both co-chairs of a group called Problem Solvers, an equal group. Vice chair. I meant to say we're vice chairs. And so I was going to go home, and they said, no, it's important that some of us get together and just, make sure that we're talking to each other. We're all pretty good friends. We meet literally every week. And I said, well, it's 8:30. I left at 6, and said, I'll go if Debbie goes. So Debbie says, okay, you're driving. So I get in my little car and we go off. It's at Carmine's little restaurant, not too far from here. I drop Debbie off at the door. I find parking. I go in, and there's about 10, 12 members, 15 members maybe there. And all of a sudden, and the president's speaking, not in my district, but the next county over, and he comes out with this deal, and I look at my phone, my staff is there, and they said he just went after John. Debbie shrieks, and
shriek.
Yeah.
You said he just talked about you, and then he's.
So I got home, and I did a tweet, and frankly, I talked to the president a little bit later on. I said, you need to apologize for this. This is not who we want to be. We are a better country than this. And let's let issues drive us, and not have some personal attacks or innuendos. It's just, it hurts trying to get things done. We have a big agenda that we want to work on, whether it be infrastructure or reducing drug prices or, finding cures for cancer, all these different things. And the last thing, the thing that really gets in the way is when we're throwing hardballs at each other and actually hitting people. That's not good.
Are you too optimistic that the tone and willingness to work together is going to change, or do you suspect that the divides between parties, the dysfunction is going to persist?
Well, I'm a Cubs fan, so I'm an optimist. We did do it once in 100 years, I'm encouraged, which is why I'm here. I mean, I never thought I'd be in Congress this long, but I feel that I'm making.
Longer?
Well, voters always decide that. So,
But we do want him to run again, don't we?
I want to work on things that brings us together and solves this divide and to be part of that solution. That's why I'm here today.
Debbie?
I wrote my thesis in the 90s on civility in Congress. You study the history of it, we go through periods. But you've got to have people like us. You need leaders. It's about leadership. And, I'm going to work really hard to restore that leadership, to bring people together.
Let me ask you one. Ibram Kendi, who I'm going to interview at the end of the show today, who's written a book on how to be an anti-racist, quoted in his tweet he did the other day from Martin Luther King. He says, my real problem sometimes are not, the racists out there. It's the moderate white guy, essentially, who prefers order over justice. Are we at a time where we confuse, because I talk about this, because I know I feel like a centrist, I want to see it be a problem solver, but are we sacrificing justice or movement on things like climate or racism or economic inequality in order to be in the middle somewhere? How do you square that in your own minds?
Dr. King said something along the lines, this is not quite an accurate quote, but it's certainly paraphrasing correct. The day that we stay silent is the day that we start to die. We have to stand up. I mean, not in an evil or nasty way, but just point out injustices that are out there and pledge that we'll not only speak out and identify those, but work to correct them. Mm-hmm. I said, I do a lot of Dr. King ceremonies, always have. If he was here today, he'd think that, it's not a dream, it's a nightmare. And we've taken steps backwards from where we were before, we're certainly where we want to be.
Debbie, final word?
This country's being divided with fear and hatred. And Russia, by the way, is trying to do it. We all need to stand up to hatred and to fear. And nobody can stand by silent. And start with Facebook and social media. Yeah. And when people post ridiculous, vitriolic, horrific, non-acceptable posts, post back. That's my bugaboo and my tool.
So with that, thank you both for your leadership and showing us that.
Thank you.
Ladies and Congressman Fred Upton and Debbie Dingell, thank you so much.